हाँ हाँ मैं बुला लूंगी. Very good morning, students. I am Dr. Sarika. I am going to present you the class on the female genital tract anomalies. Okay, so let's start. So, what is the anatomy of the female internal reproductive organs? So, human female reproductive system or the female genital system contains two main parts. One is the uterus, another is the vagina and the ovaries. Uterus is associated with vagina, uterus which hosts the developing fetus, and it produces the vaginal and uterine secretions as well, and passes the male sperm through the fallopian tubes, through to the fallopian tube. So uterus is working as a system which is connecting the ovum to the sperm. Okay. Another important organ for the female reproductive system is the ovaries itself, which produce the female's egg cells. These parts are internal. Both uterus and the ovaries are the internal female reproductive system. So the vagina meets the external organs at the vulva, which includes the labia, clitoris, and the urethra. So obviously these are the external genital system. The vagina is attached to the uterus through the cervix, that you know, keep vagina, then cervix, then upside the uterus, while the uterus is attached to the ovaries via the fallopian tubes. Okay, so at certain intervals, the ovary releases an ovum which passes through the fallopian tube into the uterus. This is the normal genital tract in nutshell. So you can see this. This is the uterus. Okay, and it is connecting with the fallopian tubes to the ovary. Okay, and here is the cervix somewhere else. This is the cervix and this is the vagina. Okay, these are the internal reproductive system. So vagina is canal that joins the cervix, the lower part of the uterus, to the outside of the body. It also known as the birth canal. So what is a uterus? Uterus is a hollow pear-shaped organ that is the home to the developing fetus. The uterus is divided into two parts: the cervix, which is the lower part that opens into the vagina, and the main body of the uterus called the corpus. The corpus can easily expand to hold a developing baby. A channel through the cervix allows sperm to enter the menstrual blood to exit. Ovaries. The ovaries are small, oval-shaped glands that are located on either side of the uterus. The ovaries produces egg and hormones. So this is the structure of an ovary. Fallopian tubes. These are the narrow tubes that are attached to the upper part of the uterus and serve as tunnels for the ova to travel from the ovaries to the uterus. Conception. The fertilization of an egg by a sperm normally occurs in the fallopian tube. The fertilized egg then moves to the uterus, where it implants into the lining of the uterine wall. Cervix. The cervix. The lower part of the uterus that produces into the vaginal canal has an orifice that allows passage of the menstrual flow from the uterus and passage of sperm into the uterus. So, what are the abnormalities of the reproductive tract? Developmental anomalies, including during embryogenesis, may be acquired during adulthood, sometimes during pregnancy. These are the abnormalities of the reproductive tract. So, during the embryogenesis, failure of fusion of the two Mullerian ducts leads to separate uterine horns. Failure of cavitation between them results in some degree of persistent uterine septums. Uncommonly, there is a cervical and vaginal duplication associated with the septate uterus. Vagina forms between the urogenital sinus and the Mullerian tubercle by a dissolution of the cell cord between the two structures. Dissolution starts at the hymen and moves upward toward the cervix. Failure of this process is associated with the persistence of the cell cord. Vaginal agenesis. Vaginal agenesis is a result of either failed caudal migration of the fused Mullerian duct or incomplete cell resorption. The latter may result in complete vaginal obstruction or, if less severe, partial persistence and a vaginal septum. Ovary. This is the ovary. Uterus. This is the vagina. And when there is uterus not fully developed, or there is septum that can lead, or there is incomplete canalization that lead to the non-canalization of the vagina and lead to the various levels of septums. Genesis and classification of Mullerian abnormalities. Defective canalization of the vagina result in a transverse septum, or in the most extreme form, vaginal agenesis. Unilateral maturation of the Mullerian duct with an incomplete or absent development of the opposite duct results in defects associated with upper urinary tract abnormalities also. Okay? The most common abnormality is absent or faulty midline fusion of the Mullerian duct that lead to the various type of abnormal uterine structures. So these are this is the ASRM classification, American Fertility Society classification, that is called as AFS classification or the ASRM classification of Mullerian anomalies. So there are 7 classes for the abnormal Mullerian anomalies. One is a segmental Mullerian hypoplasia or agenesis. There is complete absence of vagina, cervix, uterine fundus, or the tubal structure, or the combined anomalies. Second is a unicornate uterus. Communicating rudimentary horn हो सकता है. There could be non-communicating rudimentary horn. There could be no endometrial cavity and no rudimentary horn. Third is the uterine didelphys. ठीक है, uterine didelphys. Fourth is the biconate uterus. There is no cornu of uterus that lead to the biconate uterus. It could be complete division to the up to the internal os, or it could be partial biconate uterus. Septate uterus, that could be partial, complete. There could be arcuate or DES related abnormalities of the Mullerian ducts. So this one is a class 1. In this class 1, there is complete vaginal agenesis. There is fundal, only fundus is available, rest is the not proper canalized. There could be cervical, cervix is absent, tube is absent, or it could be the combined lower part is absent. Okay. So vulvar abnormalities क्या होती हैं? Atresia. Complete atresia of the vulva Complete atresia of the vulva includes atresia of the introitus and lower 1/3 of the vagina. In most cases, however, atresia is incomplete and results from adhesion or scars following injury or infection. The defect may present a considerable obstacle to vaginal delivery. Deep perineal tears may result. Labial fusion, most commonly due to congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Imperforate hymen. It is a persistence of the fusion between the sino-vaginal bulbs at the vestibules, associated with primary amenorrhea and hematocolpos, and is not encountered often during pregnancy. Vaginal abnormalities. Developmental abnormalities of the normal single vagina include vaginal agenesis, vaginal atresia that could lead to the double vagina, longitudinal vaginal septum, transverse vaginal septum. Like you can see here in this first diagram, vaginal atresia is there. There is not complete canalization that lead to the abnormal length of the vagina. Okay. Here you can see double vagina. There is longitudinal septum. Okay. This is transverse vaginal septum. This is longitudinal in this pink diagram. Another, there is a longitudinal vaginal septum that lead to the incomplete. Upper say here you can see there is complete canalization and there is longitudinal vaginal septum. So obstetrical significance of the vaginal abnormalities. Complete Mullerian agenesis, pregnancy is impossible, of course, because uterus and vagina is absent. About 1/3 of women with vaginal atresia have associated urological abnormalities associated with it. Complete vaginal atresia precludes pregnancy by vaginal intercourse unless corrected operatively. Okay. So because vagina is not there, so there is impossible to get sperm to travel from the uterus up to the fallopian tube, that lead to the impossible pregnancy. So we need a corrective surgery for this, and we can make a pregnant a female fertile. Incomplete septum, manifestation of faulty development or the result of scarring from injury or inflammation. It could be iatrogenic or could be due to some injury, road traffic accident like that could lead to the partial septum formation. In most cases of partial atresia, because of pregnancy induced tissue softening, obstruction during labor is gradually overcome and it could interfere with descent. Obstetrical significance of vaginal abnormalities: complete longitudinal vaginal septum usually does not cause dystocia because half of the vagina through which the fetus descends dilates satisfactorily. Incomplete septum, however, occasionally interferes with descent. Upper vagina is separated from the rest of the canal by a transverse septum with a small opening, and some are associated with in utero exposure to DES. Cervical abnormalities: atresia. The entire cervix may fail to develop. This may be combined with incomplete development of the upper vagina or lower uterus. Double cervix. Each distinct cervix results from separate Mullerian duct maturation. Both septate and true double cervices are frequently associated with a longitudinal vaginal septum. Many septate cervices are erroneously classified as double. So, what is single hemicervix? This arises from unilateral Mullerian maturation. There is no maturation of opposite side of Mullerian duct that lead to hemicervix. What is septate cervix? This consists of single muscular ring partitioned by a septum. The septum may be confined to the cervix, or more often it may be the downward continuation of uterine septum or the upward extension of a vaginal septum. So, what is the obstetrical significance of this? Uncorrected complete cervical atresia is incompatible with natural conception. In 2001, reported 6 successful pregnancy in 4 women with cervical atresia after creation of uterovaginal anastomosis. Uterine malformation. What is the diagnosis? Discovered by routine pelvic examination. Frequently, they are discovered at cesarean delivery or first discovered at laparoscopy. Sonographic screening for uterine anomalies. With specific, while specific, it is not that much sensitive. Sonohysterography can be used to differentiate septate and biconjugate uteri. Hysteroscopy and HSG are of value in ascertaining the configuration of the uterine cavity. MRI may be necessary. So MRI is the investigation of choice, but that is a definitive investigation of choice. So first we have to go through the USG, followed by MRI, not directly the MRI, because when you are ordering the MRI, you have to get the MRI of the KUB, because you'd have to, because because the ducts are simultaneously developing the bladder and the renal system also. So you have to get the picture of the renal system as well as the reproductive system. So for MRI, so before proceeding to the MRI, you should go for the ultrasonography. Accuracy of this is up to 100% in evaluation of Mullerian duct anomalies. So, what could be urological defects? Asymmetrical reproductive tract abnormalities are frequently associated, that I have already told you that it is associated with urinary tract anomalies. When unilateral uterine atresia is present, or when one side of a double vagina terminates blindly. So, there could be auditory defect also. Okay? Sometimes there is auditory defect. Up to a third of women with Mullerian defects will have auditory defects. Typically, these are sensory neural hearing loss in the high frequency range. Uterine anomalies in Wilms tumor survivor, because these patients were followed up in a study. This rare malignancy appears to be associated with an increased incidence of congenital urinary and reproductive tract anomalies. This might partially explain the increased rate of infertility reported in female survivors, because there are some uterine anomalies they are associated that lead to the subfertility, and there is increased frequency of their reporting in an infertility clinic. So, what is the obstetrical significance? Defects that result from development of only one Mullerian duct or from lack of fusion often give rise to a hemiuterus that fails to dilate, and hypertrophy appropriately occurs. So there could be chances of rupture in second trimester also. This may result in miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, rudimentary horn pregnancy, preterm delivery, fetal growth restriction, abnormal fetal lie, uterine dysfunction, or the uterine rupture. This is the most deadly complication of this anomalies. So like this, you can see here, there is hypoplasia that I have already told you. This is just a summary picture again. Hypoplasia or agenesis. In this, vagina is not canalized. Mm. Just this. Vagina is not canalized in this picture. Cervix is also not properly developed. In this, there is nothing developed. Uterus, vagina, and cervix. Only the fundal structures are developed. Rest is non-canalized. Tubal. There is absence of bilateral tubes. So this is a clear-cut case of infertility because there is no chance of sperm to travel from here to up to the ovary. Combined. There is combined abnormalities, including vaginal, cervical, fundal, tubal. Everything can happen. Like absence of tubes could be there along with this combined. So what is the unicorn? Now I'm coming to the second class. First class was a Mullerian agenesis. Another is a unicorn because there is proper non-development. So there could be unicornuate horn, unicornuate with communicating. So this is a main uterine cavity. Another, I'm talking about second A. There is a main uterine cavity and another is the communicating horn. Another is a non-communicating. Here you can see in the second picture 2B. In 2B you can see there is complete, there is no communication. Here is a sperm can come from transmigration. So it could lead to the non-communicating horn pregnancy that could lead to the rupture of this non-communicating horn, especially in the second trimester cases. No cavity. Here it you what you can get, there is a in 2C I am telling you, there is no cavity and that transmigration can occur and that lead to the pregnancy in opposite tube. So when you are getting this type of picture while doing laparotomy or the laparoscopy for ectopic pregnancy, you should transect this cavity also for to prevent the future ectopic pregnancy. There is no horn. So this type of uterus, what it could lead, this type of uterus can have fetal growth restriction, preterm labor, PROM. Preterm deliveries are more common in this type of picture. This is didelphys. There is complete canalization. There is two cervixes, two cervices, two horns. This is called as didelphys. What is biconvert? Single cervix. Both in the cervix, single cervix. There could be complete canalization. There could be partial canalization. So another is a septate. So you can get a septa because externally there is only one uterus, but there is a septa inside. You can see a septa. This black. I'm talking about fifth A. There is a complete partialization up to the cervix. So cervix is single. Otherwise, so don't confuse it with the didelphys because sometimes students get confused with didelphys and the septate uterus. So there is no confusion in this septate. There is one uterine cavity, sorry, one uterus, but there are two cavities because of this septa is available. This septa is available fifth A, sorry, fifth A. There could be partial septa. In the partial septa, what is there? Because there are two cavity, two partial cavity. ऊपर की तरफ आप देखेंगे तो there are two cavities along attached with fallopian tubes, but one cervix. So there is clear cut funda. In the didelphys, you will get two cavities, two cervix. In bicornuate, you will get one cervix, two cavities. In the septa also, you will get one cavity, but there is complete and partial. So there is fundal defect in this biconvent. Fundal defect is there, but in septate there is no fundal defect. So these are the various identifying feature during the sonography or during the MRI. And there is the arcuate uterus. Arcuate में क्या होता है? Arcuate is more of similar to the septate, but there is no septa. Arcuate में fundus is a little thicker. These drug related abnormalities, these are different because DES is withdrawn from the FDA around 50-60, around 40-50 years back. So right now we are not getting these type of picture. Okay, next. So now I'm coming to the class 2, that is unicornuate uterus. Almost I have summarized you about the unicornuate uterus. Again, see the picture of A, B, C, D. And now I'm telling about the theory. Women with a unicornuate uterus have an increased incidence of infertility, endometriosis, and dysmenorrhea. Implantation in the normal sized hemiuterus is associated with increased incidence of, obviously there is increased incidence of spontaneous abortion, preterm delivery, intrauterine fetal demise, rupture of the uterus. So class 2. It is a communicating that I have already told you: communicating, non-communicating, no cavity, no horn. There are four type of pictures you can get in a unicornuate uterus. So it is a non-communicating rudimentary horn attached with a fallopian tube. So this is the picture where you can get a ectopic pregnancy. So you have to remove the non-communicating rudimentary horn along with the laparotomy or the laparoscopy to prevent future ectopic pregnancies. So third is the uterine didelphys. I am again showing you the picture. Third, just revise it. Didelphys. Two cervix, two cavity, no fundus. So this anomaly is distinguished from bicornuate and septate uteri by the presence of complete non-fusion of the cervix and hemiuterine cavity. This is the classical picture which we are asking in the Viva. In the class 3, there is complete there is this biconvate and septate uterine cavity in the presence of complete non-fusion. Okay, except for ectopic and rudimentary horn pregnancy, problems associated with uterine didelphys are similar but less frequent than those with unicornuate uterus. Complication में क्या होएगा? Preterm delivery 20%. Breech presentation obviously more common. Cesarean delivery is obviously more common in 82% cases, and most of the time this cesarean delivery is also preterm cesareans. Now the class 3, what is this? Just see, just identify this. Class 3 is, just check it out, didelphys. Okay, this is the picture of didelphys. You can able to see two cervix, one here, one other. This is a two hemiuterus and no fundus, dotted, because that's why it is put as dotted, because otherwise normal uterus should be like this, but in this, what is the structure of the uterus? Like this. Okay. So biconvate and septate uterus, class 4 and 5, marked increase in miscarriage. Obviously, this is likely due to the abundant muscle tissue in the septum. Pregnancy loss in the first 20 weeks were reported from the case studies, 70% from biconvate, 80% from the septate uterus. There also is increased incidence of preterm delivery, abnormal fetali, and the cesarean deliveries. Like this, you can see there is a partial complete septum, one cervix, arcuate uterus. The complete septum, partial septum. Now the class 6 is the arcuate uterus. This malformation is only a mild deviation from normally developed uterus. So what is the management? Management with non-obstructive defect such as uterine didelphys and uterine, with the women with non-obstructive defects such as uterine didelphys and unicornuate uterus usually do not need surgical correction. Although abnormal fetal presentation is common, external cephalic version is less likely to be successful. Obviously, बात है, because there is no space to move the fetus in the inside the cavity because of the less liquor and the size of the fetus, cord, everything is there in that hemi uterus. That could lead to the chances of external cephalic version are very less. So there is a chance of cerclage. Transabdominal cerclage may offer the best prognosis for female with partial cervical atresia or hyperplasia. But what is the need of cerclage? The need of cerclage is because there is partial atresia, so that could lead to the uh, preterm dilatation of the cervix. Transvaginal cerclage has been used successfully in DES exposed women with cervical hypoplasia. So what you can do: metroplasty. Women with septate or biconvate anomalies and poor reproductive outcome may benefit from uterine surgery. Repair of biconvate uterus is by transabdominal metroplasty involving septal resection and fundal reconstruction. Repair of septate uterus is usually by hysteroscopic septal resection. Sometimes people used to ask, sometimes examiner used to, what is metroplasty? Metro, we are using the term for the uterus, just like you must have heard about the hematometra, pyometra. So metra, metra word we are using for the uterine cavity. So that is called a metroplasty, just like a plastic surgery we are doing. So we are doing the surgery on the uterus, that is called as metroplasty. So what you can do in metroplasty? You can remove the septa, You can create a biconvert anomaly. उसमें क्या करना है, two uterine cavities are there, you have to combine. So you have to resect the both side of the hemiuterus wall, lateral wall, sorry, medial walls of the both side of the uterus and combine into a single cavity. That could lead to the chances of bigger cavity, but the chances of cesarean section is 100%. Reason because you can't try a normal labor for all these patients. ठीक है. Repair of septate uterus. Septate uterus में क्या करना है? In the class 5, this class 5, sorry, in the class 5 you have to do what you have to do, the septal resection. You can do for both, for the partial and the complete. So basic aim of the metroplasty surgery is to increase the capacity of the uterine cavity. Okay. Diethylstrobistrol induced reproductive tract anomalies में क्या होता है? Development of rare vaginal clear cell adenocarcinoma. So that lead to the increased risk of developing CIN, small cell cervical carcinomas, vaginal adenosis, non-neoplastic structural abnormalities. So that lead to the these questions are being used to being asked too much in the PG questions. So the one question is about the vaginal adenosis. Another is small cell cervical carcinoma. These two questions are most of the time being asked in exams. So structural abnormalities, what structural abnormalities you can get in the DES exposure? One is a transverse septa. Another is a circumferential ridge involving the vagina and the cervix. Another thing, you can get cervical collars. There is some projections, some polyp-like projections that called as cervical collars. Smaller uterine cavities, shortened upper uterine segment, T shape. This T shape is also being asked so many times in PG questions. Another is a oviduct abnormality. What is oviduct? Oviduct, we are calling fallopian tube as a oviduct. So there could be chances of fallopian tube abnormalities. So what is the reproductive performance in a case of DES exposure? When women exposed to DES in utero, in general, have impaired conception rates. So there is chances of subfertility, possibly associated with cervical hypoplasia and atresia. Their incidence of miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, and preterm delivery are also increased, especially in women with structural abnormalities. So there are chances of transgenerational anomalies. Genital tract abnormalities have been described in the offspring of women exposed to DES when they were a fetus. So there is chances of transgeneration, like mother is affected and that lead to a female child जो कि उसके through deliver हो रही है by chance, because there is chances of infertility and subfertility also. So if they got a female fetus, that fetus can also have some abnormalities in future, detected in future. Okay. So acquired anomalies क्या होती हैं? One is the bulbal abnormalities. So you can get some edema, inflammatory lesions, Bartholin gland lesions. Cysts of Bartholin glands are usually sterile and need no treatment during pregnancy. If the cysts are large enough to cause difficulty at delivery, that need to be aspirated as a temporary measure is sufficient. If abscess is present, broad spectrum antimicrobial are given and drainage is established. So urethral and bladder lesion can also there, that is called as condyloma acuminata. Venereal warts can also be extensive, that vaginal delivery may be prohibited. Female genital mutilation can also be there. So vaginal abnormalities, you can get acquired vaginal abnormalities are a little uncommon, but as I have told you at the start of the lecture, due to some road traffic accident or some mishappening, there could lead to a major trauma. That could lead to long-term sexual and reproductive function is usually normal. Vaginal stenosis may develop as a result of mucositis from graft versus host reaction, organ transplantation. So that could lead to the vaginal stenosis. Vaginal stenosis is also common in a case of radiotherapy. Partial atresia में क्या होगा? Incomplete atresia may result from infection or trauma that lead to the extensive scarring. During labor, this is usually overcome by pressure from the presenting part, but the occasionally incision or every cesarean, even cesarean delivery is necessary. क्योंकि क्या होगा? That when you got the partial atresia, that lead to the continuous obstruction of the fetal head on that septum. Sometimes that septum get torn and lead to the vaginal delivery, that lead to the protracted labor, or sometimes that is not possible and lead to the cesarean section. So there are some chances: genital tract fistulas, vesicovaginal fistula following a McDonald cerclage done at 20 weeks. So there are chances of VVF, vesico-uterine fistula, that develop following vaginal delivery after, especially after cesarean delivery. Rarely there is a vesico-cervical fistula also. It is also occurred during the cesarean section. Rarely the anterior cervical lip is compressed against the symphysis pubis with development of vesico-cervical fistula. Sometimes there is cervical anomalies. Cicatrization, cervical stenosis is uncommon, but it may follow cervical trauma such as conization. Conization, where we are doing conization. Conization is done during the cervical intraepithelial neoplasia (CIN) in the CIN treatment, CIN 3, CIN 2. Sometimes where this conization is necessary for to confirmation of for the margins of the carcinoma cervix, that lead to the conization, and the patient is of reproductive age and willing to get the pregnancy, so she can develop in future cicatrized cervix that lead to the preterm labor. And this conization cervix we need to put a cerclage to continue the pregnancy up to at least 32 weeks, 34 weeks. Overall, both surgical and laser conization or loop excision for cervix CIN increases the preterm delivery that I have told you. Congulinated cervix may undergo almost complete effacement without dilatation, with the presenting part separated from the vagina by only a thin layer of cervical tissue. Dilatation usually promptly follows pressure with the fingertip, although manual dilation of the cruciate incision may be required. Finally, extensively, cervical carcinoma may impair vaginal delivery also. Another acquired reproductive tract abnormalities may uterine abnormality. You can get antiflexion. Exaggerated degrees of antiflexion, frequently observed in early pregnancy, are without significance. Marked antiflexion of the enlarging pregnant uterus usually is associated with diastasis recti and the pendulous abdomen. The abnormal uterine position sometimes prevent proper transmission of contraction. This is overcome by repositioning with an abdominal binder. So there is not too much role of abdominal winder to correct the anti-flexion, but sometimes for a pendulous abdomen we need a abdominal binder. Retroflexion: the growing normally retroflexed uterus remain incarcerated in the hollow of the sacrum. Symptoms include abdominal discomfort and inability to void normally. Uterine abnormalities, and what else you can get? Uterine prolapse. I'm just telling you the what abnormalities which you can acquire. Otherwise a separate lecture for all these will be taken. Uterine prolapse: the cervix and occasionally a portion of the body of the uterus may protrude to a variable extent from the vulva during early pregnancy. If the uterus persists in its prolapsed position, symptoms of incarceration may occur up to 10 to 14 weeks. To prevent this, uterus is replaced early in pregnancy and held in position with a suitable pessary like this. Uterine prolapse is a dropping of the uterus from its normal position at the top of the vagina. It drops to a lower part of the vagina, may even drops outside the vagina. This is caused by relaxation of ligaments that support the uterus within the abdominal wall, that you all know. I'm just summarizing it. There are many different degrees of prolapse, incomplete or the complete prolapse. There are chances of cystocele and the rectocele. Attenuation of facial support between the vagina and the bladder can lead to the prolapse of the bladder into the vagina or the cystocele. Attenuation of fascia between the vagina and the rectum results in rectocele. Okay. Another thing is enterocele. Leiomyoma. What is leiomyoma? It is an acquired abnormalities. It doesn't start with the birth, so also known as myoma and somewhat called as fibroids. That is the most common name for the leiomyoma. Common being smooth muscle tumor. Benign. It's a benign smooth muscle tumor. Incidences during pregnancy is probably about 2%. Symptoms from leiomyoma depend principally on their location. So there are three types mainly: is the submucous beneath the endometrial or the decidual lining of the uterine cavity. Subserous immediately beneath the uterine serosa become parasitic. and derives its blood supply through the highly vascularized omentum. Third is intramural, that is within the substance of the uterus, confined within the myometrium. It may develop a significant subserous or submucosal component or both. Submucous and subserous myoma may be the pedunculated and can undergo transtorsion with necrosis. Myomas during pregnancy or the puerperium occasionally undergo red or carneous degeneration that is caused by hemorrhagic infarction. It is not clear whether they diminish fertility or they are causing early miscarriage. So these are the basic ultrasonographic picture of the leiomyoma. A little obscure it is. So what is the effect of pregnancy in myoma? During the first trimester, myoma of all cells either remain unchanged or increased, a possible response because of early response because of increased estrogen. During the second trimester, smaller myoma, 2 to 6 centimeter, usually remained unchanged. Regardless of initial myoma size, during the third trimester, myoma usually remain unchanged, decreased, or reflecting estrogen receptor downregulation. So what you are going to do this during the pregnancy, after the diagnosis is confirmed, expectant management is recommended because we are not going to give any treatment during the pregnancy time. So resection of myoma during pregnancy is generally contraindicated. Resection of intramural myoma during pregnancy or at the time of delivery usually stimulate profuse bleeding, and that could lead to the collapse of the patient. So never attempt the myomectomy during the cesarean unless it is indicated or it is in the lower uterine segment. Even in our hospital, we are not doing the lower segment cesarean section when it is myoma is at the lower segment site. We used to do a classical cesarean section. Intramural myomectomy is especially hazardous for subsequent pregnancy because that could lead to the scar rupture. So another thing is endometriosis and adenomyosis. Almost never symptomatic during pregnancy. Occasionally endometriosis is problematic. So almost never symptomatic during pregnancy. Occasionally endometriosis is problematic. Most commonly symptoms subsequently develop from endometrial implants at the time of cesarean delivery or episiotomy. Adenomyosis. तेरी मेरी क्लास चल रही है मेरी. Adenomyosis found in older women, and rest of the class rest for the rest of the disease you must have separate classes for the endometriosis and adenomyosis, so I'm just skipping this. Okay, that's the completion of the lecture. Is there any question? So you can put in the chat box, or you can put your this attendance. Finish हो गया. Exit कर दो. आप करो.